I'm back. Hey guys, it's Spear here with some more Dragon Ball TCG content. I just want to start off by thanking everybody I met at Nationals this past weekend. I had a fantastic time. I loved meeting everybody from the community, and if anything, it's motivated me to be a part of more events this next competitive season. Things on my end have slowed down. Soon I'll be moving, but everything that's been between that is done. So I'm looking forward to making more content again. And I look forward to hearing and seeing more of you in the next coming season. But let's get right into the topic of this video. And we have a few fresh erratas. So let's get into it. So as of November 1st, 2019, Bandai has issued a number of erratas, and they will be effective as of November 15th. So let's just jump into it. And hey, the ramp is dead. Specifically, World Peace. Now, instead of indiscriminately bringing back anything it wants from the drop, we are now getting to play battle cards that cost 3 or less. So we effectively got Child's Wish Plus. It doesn't care whether it's a 15k or less. It's really just, instead of being able to bring beater after beater after beater, now it's more so filling the gap that Child's Wish used to, where you're probably bringing out combo pieces to try and evolve on top of, or just push some plays. And if I had to make any changes to the format, like, told me I had to ban something, I had to make a change to something, this whole Shenron shenanigans is too degenerate, I would look at World Peace before making changes anywhere else. I think World Peace is just that catch-all card. Makes it way too easy to play out the things you want to play out. That you can essentially turbo to no consequence. And it gets around a lot of the different restrictions that a lot of different boss monsters have for what is effectively free. Reanimation is something that's really tough to balance. It's a fine line between giving players an exciting mechanic, but also making sure that it doesn't become degenerate. So for example, one of the things that Magic the Gathering does is with any of the reanimation spells, it's either pretty expensive. Mana is a little tighter than energy is in Magic. Or it's going to cost you some of your board, you're going to have to sack a creature or something, or effectively the creature only lasts one turn. And mind you, not all creatures in like Magic the Gathering per se have what is essentially haste. They can't attack right away. So intrinsically, battle cards have so much value just from being able to be played, and not only the fact that you're playing them for cheaper restrictions or for free essentially, that it makes it really tough to balance for this game, especially when no matter what, you're going to be able to at least hit face with it. So what World Peace was really doing was saying, you know what, at my high end, and we're not talking like, at my high end, I could put you facing a board of Victory Strike, Kaioken, and Gogeta 7. So I'm going to Gogeta 7 you, I'm going to Kaioken you the 3 that you have left, and then I'm going to Victory Strike and guarantee the win. And the issue with that is, like, not only is that ridiculous, but the fact that you get around all these different restrictions that these boss monsters are built around, it means that you're playing so many different angles that it's really tough for a meta to play around it. There are very different things between getting your entire hand ripped out, but at least you can get some cards from life. So whereas, like, you play Victory Strike and you lose regardless of if you have negates or not. Naturally, there are ways to play around it. Shenron definitely wasn't tier 0 by any means. But what Shenron did is that it pushed out so many decks from the format and skewed so many decks to answer it. We saw the national champion this year. His deck was heavily teched for the Shenron matchup. Mainboarding things like Black Mass Saiyan and all that, just to not only push the aggro, but also punish, the Whis World Peace. So you add to the fact that, your drop is essentially a second deck, that you can play so many different versatile threats that you can pretty much answer anything, and that the way to interact with you is so limited that it creates an unfun format that's probably a little too pushed. And warping the format the way it does is just unhealthy. The deck's not totally dead. remember that they'll still be able to give Gogeta 7 triple attack, and they can still play it at 5 energy. What this means is that they'll no longer be able to objection and get a Shenron in on board on that turn, and then the next turn you're going to hit by some form of crit Gogeta 7 or any kind of trick like that. I think Shenron decks are good and generic enough that some of them will just play them anyways. There are enough strategies that the deck's not completely dead, but what this does is that it limits its share of the pie. It means that for any strategy or like any boss monster you want to play, you don't just instantly go, well, why don't I just play with Shenron? Like I've been playing around with Gogeta Ramp for the last week or so after Nats, just to get a feel for it, play something new. And for a lot of it, if I'm just trying to play this 6-drop to play Frenzied Burst, why don't I just play Shenron? And that's true for a lot of strategies. So at the end of the day, I think World Peace is what I would have hit. You don't want to hit something like Objection because whereas World Peace, yes, you're hurting a lot of strategies. You're hurting a lot of strategies of one specific type of leader. Whereas hitting something like Objection, you're effectively saying that ramp strategies as a concept for this game needs to be limited even more. And even then, I think they've done a good job of, future ramp strategies all being pretty archetype specific in ways that don't break the game. And I think Objection, you neg basically 2 cards, and it has some definite issues with how you're going to go and building your deck versus when you do it with something like a Shenron deck where you don't really care. And, your hand size is 10 plus the entire game. So, moving on, we have Plea of Salvation. And this is pretty much the same thing. It's saying instead of being able to get anything equal to energy or less, you're only going to be able to get 3 or less. Same reasoning. I think they're just doing a clean sweep of saying this kind of generic reanimation is too busted, and we're not going to give it a chance to break what's there already. So, same thing. Nothing new here. It's the same thing as with this reason. And then we got Purunga. Purunga's ultimate now does the same thing as World Peace. I guess it's consistent. But if anything, I'd say Purunga was the one I kind of wish they left alone. It's an ultimate skill. You want it to feel powerful. And whereas I can see they're thinking of let's just clean swipe the whole thing because we don't want it to get out of hand again at some point. I do think the fact that we're talking about a leader ultimate and the fact that you nerf the play of putting 2 or 3 boss monsters all at once. I kind of wish they left this one alone. I think there's enough answers now between things like Champas and a bunch of different other counterplays, the various suites of negates we have now. That in itself wouldn't have been too busted, but I can see why they want to do a catch-all. So I get it. I'd rather they didn't, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to stress over it. If anything, it just opens up other leaders to play the strategies that the Shenron and Purunga were swallowing up. Then we got so now we're done with the format fixing erratas, and here there's just a couple of things to clean up in terms of card text. So with the Super Saiyan 4 Goku that comes into play when you awaken and you pop one of your cards to get it in there. It's just making sure that it's within the cost that your Goku is no longer in. You can only have one in play. That's just to make sure that there's no ambiguity about can I kind of play 2 or not? No. In the cost, it says if there's no other Goku of this kind on board, then you can play 1. No reason to get deep into that. Baby, this is another cost thing. The cost is now actually the cost. They added the columns instead of the little comma right here. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference in terms of how the cards are played. They want to be consistent. And finally, over here, Android 21, beautiful scientist, she has energy exhaust now, like she should have. I've talked to a lot of people about the fact that she wouldn't be all that bad if she didn't have energy exhaust, and it's kind of a balance between 1, gameplay, and 2, consistency. We saw a bunch of cards where if you're multicolor, your energy exhaust, and if not, then you need to see that there's another multicolor card in your energy for me to come untapped. And I think that's a really balanced way to do it. I've talked about it in previous videos where I think multicolor is very fine line to walk, where we don't want to push multicolor so hard that there's no reason to go one color. I think decks like Pan show really well that there are good merits to only being in one color, and things like Energy Exhaust are things to conserve that design. And there's an importance in having elegance in design. It's elegant that every multicolor card has Energy Exhaust. And conserving that kind of thing is really important as to the feel, the look of the game. And when new players are picking things up, it's okay. If it's a multicolor card, it's got Energy Exhaust. And if there's an exception, it's going to say the exception on the card. So this one's pretty clear cut at this point. And those are all the new erratas. Nothing too crazy in terms of the new cards we're getting. They're just fixing text issues that I really wish we didn't have at this point of the game. I feel like the game's old enough where we should be double checking our cards more. But hey, look, quality assurance issues happen all the time. I'm not going to stress it. Format changing. The next format is not going to be totally destroyed by ramp strategies. And even Shangita is slowed down by 1 turn if it wants to get its crits in with Go 7. I think this is going to lead to more interactive games. I think this is going to push more decks to come out of the woodwork, because now you don't just fall in the catch-all of I might as well just play a Shenron deck. And all in all, I'm really excited now. I was already excited because like set 8 looks to be busted. Dr. Yuiro, I think is his name. Like, that card's just stupid. I'm looking forward to playing Baby, and if anything, I like the fact that we can go into the format fresh without the skewed realities of the previous format, which were, beat ramp or be beaten by ramp. Anyways, thanks for showing up in my video. I look forward to making more content. I'm really glad to be back, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.